Programming. This video is going to cover Math 6, Lesson 79. It's on pages 143 and 144. And this, goodness gracious, they're having fun upstairs. This lesson introduces bar graphs, which I'm sure y'all have seen before. But this is the first time in our class. So this example that I've got on the screen right now is not in your book. So this is kind of an extra one to put in your notes. So you have it as an example. So what I have here is this is my data that I'm going to graph. And it covers just a few of the rivers in North America. This is the information we're going to graph. And then I've separated a graph as equally as I possibly can for each of those. So when we do bar graphs, the example that you have in your book on page 143 and the example that I'm doing right now, these are vertical bar graphs. So they're going to go left to right. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the opposite. These are horizontal bar graphs. I do that every single time. Okay, horizontal is left to right. Think of like the horizon. It's always sort of a straight ahead flat, runs left to right. Vertical is up and down. So when we are talking about rivers, because visually when we look at rivers, they run left to right, right to left, sort of on a flat plane. Then when we graph them, it makes sense in our minds to graph them horizontally. I still think I just said vertical. Anyway, horizontally, so left to right. I will do an example. Sometimes it doesn't really matter. You could do it either way. And so we'll do an example that's kind of like that as well. But the bar graph is just sort of a visual picture representation of information or data. So there's different parts to a bar graph, just like we had with a pictograph. The first one is you still always have a title. This is miles. So these are a certain number of miles, talking about the length of the river, so it's a certain number of miles long. So this is the scale, because we're measuring it in miles. And then these here are the labels. So we have to label each river that the data is representing. Okay, so now we want to graph them. So in class, I give them rulers if they want to draw like a nice straight line. But this one, I'm just going to use, or you can use highlighter if you have one. So I'm going to start with the Rock River. So it is 300 miles long. Now my scale is obviously every 200 miles, but I know that 300 is dead center between 200 and 400. So I'm going to draw that as close as I can to the middle until I get my graph there. Okay, so the Osage, I think it's Osage, is 500, which again is going to be 400, between 400 and 600. I'm going to draw that to about the center of those two. The Cimarron is 600 miles, so that's going to go exactly to the line for 600, as close as I can get it. So it doesn't quite match, but it's because my auto correct, the thing trying to keep me neat, it for some reason doesn't like to extend it. Okay, so the North Canadian goes all the way to 800. Oh, that one decided to stay wide. Okay. And then the Churchill is 1,000. So that one goes all the way over. Okay, it's going to drive me crazy that only one of them did that. Let me see if I can get it to behave. All the way to the line. It's probably because I went all the way to the line. There we go. Okay, so we have now graphed the information. So we're graphing the information that we're given on the length of these rivers. And so we have a visual representation. So there's a couple of things that you'll notice about the representation of these. The first is that this is ranked. So a ranked bar graph means that the statistics or the information that you're graphing are given from either least to greatest or greatest to least. So in this case, we start with the Rock River. And so this one is ranked from least to greatest. So if you're asked to give a ranked bar graph, what you're going to need to do is take your data and put it in the correct in numerical order, whatever's asked, least to greatest or greatest to least. The one in your book on fast food items sold, that one is going from greatest to least because the labels, you have hamburger at the top, which goes all the way over to 600, and apple pie at the bottom, which only goes to 100. And so that one's from greatest to least. My example is the opposite. So they're going to be ranked least to greatest or greatest to least. You have to put them in numerical order first when you're asked for a ranked bar graph. All right. Which is what you're going to be doing in number 2. Okay, so what I did in class, oh, there's a couple of other things, sorry, before I forget. This one, you also have things like the range, the mean, and the median with a bar graph. So remember, range is the difference between the largest value and the smallest. So it's the largest number minus the smallest. And in this case, that is the Churchill, which is 1,000, minus the Rock, which is 300. And so we have a range of 700 miles. So it's not what's on your graph. So it's not the 0 to 1,000. It's from the smallest value from the information that you're graphing to the largest. All right, mean is average. So when we do mean, then we take all of the values, add them together, and then divide them by the number of different values that were given. Or yeah, even if they're the same. So this one is 1,000 plus 800 plus 600 plus 500 plus 300. And then you count how many you have. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my denominator is 5. So that's 1,000, 1,800, 24, 29, 30, 31, 32. That's right. 24, 29. Okay, so 3,200 divided by 5. So 5 goes into 32 6 times with 2 left over, 24 times. And so 640 miles is our mean. So that's our exact numerical average between all of the lengths of these rivers. The median looks at the middle number. So if we have them in numerical order, which they already gave it to us, and I'm gonna keep what I've got above here. 1,800, 600, 500, 300. So when I do this, like across the first and the last, across through the second and the next to last, and then I see that the very middle number is 600. So the median is always going to be one of the numbers that you were originally given in your data. You're just going to find the one that falls directly in the middle, and this one is 600 miles. All right, so close to the mean, but not always going to be the same. Okay, so the example that we did in class is I took JCA Sports. And I did, let's see, so we had, so that's 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not low enough. Here it is. 6, 7. So it's 7 students in class, and I let them kind of raise their hand more than once. Any sport that they liked, I let them raise their hand for it because we wanted to have something decently measurable. And then I took all the sports. I forgot to include archery, but That was the only one. So we had basketball, baseball, volleyball, cross country, and soccer. Oh yeah, I twitched. That was even worse. Okay, here we go. Maybe stay. Here we go. That one's baseball, volleyball. Don't twitch. And then we have cross country. Okay, something like that. All right, and so when we graph these, I had everybody kind of vote on which ones that they liked. So I feel like we ended up with like 6 were fans of basketball. I had maybe 3 baseball fans. I know I had 1 cross country fan, and then say 6, maybe 6 for, whoops. I might be getting volleyball and basketball mixed up, but I'll say 6 for volleyball, random, and then 4 for soccer. Okay. Recording. Okay. So I've labeled them, I have, well, hold on. And I would also actually label this even more. I would say number of students. And this one, this one's pretty obvious, but this is sports. All right, so again, I've got my scale. In this case, I've got more of like my scale is on the vertical, but it just shows you kind of what a vertical bar graph is going to look like. And then it works perfectly fine. So in this case, though, I won't do the range, mean, and median like I did last time, but you can see that this is not ranked. So this is really kind of what I wanted you to see here. So this is not a ranked graph. You can see we go from 6 down to 3, back up to 6, down to 1, and then up to 4. So we have no rhyme or reason. If we wanted to put this in ranked order, say least to greatest, we would go cross country, then baseball, then soccer, basketball, and volleyball. You can sort of put whatever order you want, since they have the same scale. But we still have a title, and we still have label. Well, technically those are the labels. Okay. All right, so you should be good to do number 1. You're just answering questions about the bar graph that's on the page 143. We did the bar graph number 2. They gave you spelling. So for spelling, we had, what was it? It was 15, I think. So in this case, they asked you for a ranked graph, least to greatest. So you need to make sure that you've got history next, graph it, science, arithmetic, and then Bible. So I'll let you finish that. I've sort of organized always when they give you data, especially like they did in number 2, where they give it to you in sort of a paragraph, always rewrite the data off to the side. You can use S for science, B for Bible, A for arithmetic, H for history. If I know there's not a whole lot of room in your book, but if you're doing it on a separate sheet of paper, please by all means kind of write it like I have it. So you've got them all labeled with their data. So like this is your information. Then you can very easily put it in the correct order and get everything graphed correctly. Now, as far as the rest of the work, that's all review. So you need to give it a try on your own. You've got plenty of examples in your book and in your notes on quizzes and tests if you get stuck. Don't worry about the pictograph necessarily. I want you to do this is on page 144. Number 4, A through C. And number 6, A and B. All right, so go ahead and get those done, and that covers the lesson for Thursday, the 16th of March. Thank you so much.